The Sunday brunch at Riverside Country Club was a family tradition dating back 3 generations. White tablecloths, crystal champagne flutes, and views of the 18th hole that had hosted countless corporate tournaments and charity events. The initiation fee alone was $75,000, with annual dues running another $24,000. I cut into my eggs Benedict while my sister Lauren held court at our table for 8. The Spring Gala Committee needs at least 6 figures in sponsorships, Lauren said, adjusting the pearl necklace that probably cost more than most people's cars. We're thinking of approaching the tech companies downtown. New money is still money. Her husband Brad chuckled. As long as they know how to behave. Last year's gala had that cryptocurrency guy who wore sneakers with his tuxedo. Appalling, my mother agreed. She wore a Chanel suit and had her hair done at the club salon every Thursday without fail. Standards exist for a reason. My father nodded from behind the financial section of the newspaper. He'd been a member of Riverside for 40 years, served on the board twice and considered the club a second home. I sipped my orange juice and said nothing. Emma, you're awfully quiet, Lauren observed. Her tone suggested this was a character flaw. Don't you have any thoughts about the gala? It sounds lovely, I said. That's all. Just lovely. She exchanged glances with our brother Michael, who sat across from me with his wife Jessica. The gala is the social event of the season. Surely you can be more enthusiastic. I'm sure it will be beautiful, I offered. Will you even be there? Jessica asked. She had that particular tone wealthy people use when they're pretending concern but actually highlighting differences. I know the tickets are expensive. $500 per person. I'll be there, I said simply. Did you save up? Michael asked. That's smart. Financial planning is important when you're on a limited budget. I'd made $7 million last year, but I didn't mention this. Emma's situation is delicate, Mom said, lowering her voice as if I couldn't hear. We don't want to make her uncomfortable by discussing money. I'm not uncomfortable, I said. Of course you are, Dad said, finally looking up from his paper. Emma, there's no shame in your circumstances. You chose a different path. Teaching yoga doesn't pay like corporate law or medicine. I taught yoga exactly twice a week at a community center as volunteer work. My actual career was something they'd never bothered to ask about. I manage, I said. Barely, Lauren said. Mom told me you're still driving that old Honda. Emma, if you need help with a car payment, you should just ask. We're family. I drove a Range Rover I'd paid cash for 2 months ago, but the Honda had been parked outside Mom's house once when I'd borrowed it for an errand. They'd apparently added it to their narrative about my financial struggles. The Honda runs fine, I said. It's 7 years old, Brad said. No one here drives a car that old. It's about image, Emma. Perception matters. Especially here, Jessica added, gesturing around the elegant dining room. Riverside has standards. Everyone who comes through those gates represents the club's reputation. Which brings me to something important, Lauren said, setting down her mimosa. Emma, we need to talk about your guest privileges. My guest privileges? You've been using Dad's membership to come to Sunday brunch for months now, Lauren continued. And while family is family, there are rules about how often guests can access the club facilities. I've been here 4 times this year, I said. Exactly. That's quite a lot for someone who isn't actually a member. Lauren's smile was plastic and sharp. The membership committee has been asking questions. Questions about what? About whether you meet the standards for association with the club, Michael said. Look, we're not trying to be harsh. But Riverside has a reputation to maintain. The membership here is exclusive for a reason. Let me be clear, I said slowly. You're asking me not to come to family brunch? We're suggesting, Dad corrected, that you might be more comfortable at more casual establishments. There are plenty of nice restaurants in town where the atmosphere isn't so formal. Where the membership fees aren't a concern, Mom added gently. Darling, we love you, but we also understand your limitations. There's no point in you feeling out of place every week. I looked around the table. Lauren and Brad, Michael and Jessica, Mom and Dad, and my younger brother Ryan with his fiancée Sophie. 8 people who shared my blood, and not one of them actually knew me. I see, I said quietly. Don't take it personally, Ryan said. He was the youngest at 28 and usually the kindest, but even he looked uncomfortable. It's just that Sophie and I are planning our wedding and we want to have the reception here. The membership committee will be scrutinizing our family more closely. Can't have any weak links, Sophie said with a laugh that was supposed to sound like a joke but wasn't. Exactly, Lauren agreed. Emma, you understand, don't you? This isn't about you as a person. It's about image. Association. The optics of having a family member who can't afford membership dining here on guest passes every week. I see, I repeated. A server approached with fresh coffee. His name was Daniel and he'd worked at Riverside for 12 years. He didn't recognize me, which was exactly as I'd planned when I'd completed the acquisition documents 3 months ago. More coffee, Miss Chin? Daniel asked. No thank you, Daniel. He nodded and moved to the next table. See, you even know the staff names, Jessica said, wrinkling her nose. Emma, that's not how members interact with service workers. It's too familiar. They're people, I said. They're employees, Brad corrected. There's a professional distance that should be maintained. You're treating them like equals. They are equals. The table fell silent. Lauren looked genuinely confused, as if I'd spoken a foreign language. Emma, Dad said with the patience one uses with confused children, we understand you have different values. Your yoga teaching, your volunteer work, your lifestyle choices. But when you're here, you need to respect club culture. And club culture means treating staff like they're invisible? I asked. It means understanding hierarchy, Michael said. Social structure. These are concepts that matter in places like this. Places I don't belong, I said softly. We didn't say that, Mom protested, though of course they had. We're simply being realistic about your financial situation. Speaking of which, Lauren continued, I need to mention something else. The club is implementing new security protocols. All non-members will need to show identification at the gate and be logged as guests. It's for insurance purposes. Insurance purposes, I echoed. Member protection really, Brad said. Making sure everyone who accesses the facilities has legitimate reasons for being here. You understand. I understood perfectly. They wanted to make it difficult for me to visit. Wanted to add enough friction that I'd eventually stop coming. The guest log will be reviewed monthly by the membership committee, Lauren added. So members need to be thoughtful about how often they bring non-member guests. We wouldn't want anyone to be embarrassed by having their guest privileges questioned. Or revoked, Jessica added helpfully. I set down my fork. My Eggs Benedict was excellent, but I'd suddenly lost my appetite. Is there anything else? I asked. Don't be dramatic, Lauren said. We're just being honest with you. Honesty is kindness, Emma. Would you rather we let you keep coming here, keep feeling out of place, keep being whispered about by other members? People are whispering about me? A bit, Mom admitted. Patricia Henderson asked me last week if you were going through financial difficulties. She'd noticed you wearing the same dress to multiple events. I'd worn the same dress twice because I liked it, not because I couldn't afford others. My closet at home contained more designer clothing than Lauren's, but I'd never felt the need to prove anything. And the Robertsons mentioned seeing you at the public library, Michael added. Using the computers there. Emma, if you can't afford internet at home, we can help. I'd been at the library for a board meeting of the Literacy Foundation I funded with $500,000 annually. But again, they'd never asked. Your concern is touching, I said. We're not trying to hurt you, Dad said. We're trying to help you understand reality. You're 34 years old with no significant career, no apparent assets, and no prospects for improvement. There's no shame in that, but there's also no point in pretending otherwise. Pretending, I repeated. Yes, pretending you belong in spaces like this, Lauren said firmly. Emma, I love you, but love means being honest. You can't afford the membership fees here. You can't afford the lifestyle. And continuing to show up on guest passes is just sad. The word hung in the air. I see, I said for the third time. I stood up, placed my napkin on the table, and picked up my purse. A simple leather bag they probably assumed was from Target but was actually custom-made Italian leather that cost $4,000. Where are you going? Mom asked. I think I've taken up enough of your time, I said evenly. Don't be like that, Ryan said. We're just trying to help. I appreciate your concern, I said. Truly. It's enlightening to understand how you all see me. Emma, Dad started. Enjoy your brunch, I said. And your gala planning. I'm sure it will be the event of the season. I walked away from the table through the elegant dining room with its chandeliers and oil paintings, past the tables filled with Riverside's elite membership. Several people glanced my way. The poorly dressed woman who didn't belong, the charity case being tolerated by the Chin family. Let them look. I made my way to the lobby, past the trophy cases displaying golf tournament wins and the photos of past club presidents. The current president, Richard Morrison, stood near the main desk talking to the club manager, Patricia Grant. Richard saw me and smiled politely. Good morning, Ms. Chin. Good morning, Mr. Morrison. Beautiful day for golf, he said. It is. Patricia checked her watch. Miss Chin, if you have a moment, I was hoping to catch you. We have some paperwork in the executive office. Paperwork? Richard looked confused. The acquisition documents, Patricia said smoothly. The final signatures for the ownership transfer. Richard's confusion deepened. Ownership transfer? Patricia, what are you talking about? Ms. Chen's acquisition of Riverside Country Club, Patricia said. The sale closed last month, but we have the final administrative documents ready for signature. The lobby had gone quiet. Several members who'd been heading to the golf course stopped. My family's table was visible through the dining room archway, and I could see Lauren standing, craning to see what was happening. I'm sorry, Richard said slowly. Did you say Ms. Chin acquired the club? Yes, sir, Patricia confirmed. Ms. Emma Chin, through her investment company Chin Capital Group, completed the purchase of Riverside Country Club on March 15th. The previous ownership group accepted her offer of $18.5 million. Richard's face had gone pale. $18.5 million. The property includes the clubhouse, golf course, tennis facilities, pool complex, and all associated buildings on 240 acres, Patricia continued, reading from her tablet. Ms. Chin also acquired the management contracts and employment agreements for all 93 staff members. Emma Chin, Richard repeated, looking at me like he'd never seen me before. You bought Riverside Country Club? I did, I said simply. But your family said you. My family said many things, I agreed. Most of them inaccurate. Lauren appeared in the lobby now, followed by Michael and Brad. What's going on? Emma, what is she talking about? Apparently, Richard said faintly, Emma owns the club. Owns Riverside. That's impossible, Lauren said flatly. Emma can't even afford the membership fees. Couldn't afford them as a member, I corrected. Buying the entire property was more cost-effective. Patricia pulled up documents on her tablet. If I may, Ms. Chin acquired Riverside through Chin Capital Group, her private investment firm specializing in recreational property acquisitions and management. Her portfolio currently includes 6 country clubs, 9 golf courses and 12 resort properties across 7 states. Total portfolio valuation is approximately $63 million. The silence was deafening. $63 million, Michael whispered. The Riverside acquisition was strategic, Patricia continued. Ms. Chin identified the property as undervalued and operationally inefficient. Her management team has already implemented cost reduction measures that have improved profit margins by 18%. Management team? Brad asked weakly. As if on cue, the front doors opened and 3 people entered. Marcus Wu, my chief financial officer. Sarah Peterson, my director of operations. And James Chin, my cousin and legal counsel. Emma, sorry we're late, Marcus said, pulling a rolling briefcase. Traffic from the airport was terrible. We have the quarterly reports and the renovation proposals ready for your review. No problem, I said. We can meet in the executive office. Executive office, Lauren repeated. She looked like she might faint. Yes, the owner's office, Patricia said. Miss Chin had it renovated last month. Beautiful space. Much more modern than the previous setup. My father appeared in the lobby, newspaper still in hand. Someone want to explain what's happening? Emma owns Riverside, Richard said. She bought it. The entire club. Dad looked at me, then at Patricia, then back at me. That's not possible. The documents are public record, Mr. Chin, James said pleasantly. He was my cousin on my mother's side and had been my lawyer for 8 years. The family had lost touch with him after he'd moved to California, which meant they had no idea he worked for me. I filed them myself with the county registrar. The sale is completely legitimate and finalized. But Emma teaches yoga, Mom said, appearing behind Dad. She drives a Honda. She wears the same dress to multiple events. I teach yoga because I enjoy it, I said calmly. I borrowed the Honda once because my car was being detailed. And I wore the same dress twice because I liked it, not because I couldn't afford another. You're saying you're rich? Ryan asked. I'm saying I'm successful, I corrected. I built Chin Capital Group from the ground up over the past 10 years. Started with a single golf course I bought with money I saved and invested wisely. Expanded from there. Sarah pulled out her laptop. If it helps, I can show you the portfolio breakdown. Chin Capital Group owns properties in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Total acreage across all properties exceeds 4,000 acres. Annual revenue last year was approximately $12 million. $12 million, Jessica whispered. Ms. Chen's personal net worth is estimated at around $68 million, Marcus added. Though that fluctuates based on market conditions and property valuations. $68 million, Lauren said. You have $68 million. Approximately, I confirmed. The lobby was filling with members now, drawn by the commotion. Patricia looked at me apologetically. Miss Chen, perhaps we should move this to your office? More privacy. Actually, I said, I think here is fine. Everyone should hear this. I turned to face my family fully. For the past 10 years, you've made assumptions about my life based on superficial observations and zero actual knowledge. You assumed because I dress simply that I'm poor. You assumed because I teach yoga that I'm unsuccessful. You assumed because I don't flaunt wealth that I don't have it. You let us believe, Lauren started. I didn't let you believe anything, I interrupted. You chose to believe what you wanted without ever asking me directly about my life, my work, or my achievements. How many times have any of you asked what I do for a living? Silence. Exactly, I said. Because you weren't interested. You decided I was the unsuccessful sibling, the disappointing daughter, and nothing I said would have changed your minds. That's not fair, Mom protested. Isn't it? I asked. Mom, when's the last time you asked about my career? Dad, have you ever inquired about my business? Lauren, Michael, Ryan, any of you? More silence. Emma, if you'd told us, Dad began. I did tell you, I said quietly. 3 years ago when I bought my first country club. I mentioned at Thanksgiving dinner that I'd made a major investment. You laughed and asked if I'd bought lottery tickets. Dad's face flushed. 2 years ago I mentioned I was expanding my portfolio. Lauren asked if I meant my stock photo portfolio because surely I couldn't afford actual stocks. Lauren looked at the floor. Last year I tried to explain about the resort properties. Michael changed the subject to talk about his golf handicap. We didn't know you were serious, Michael said weakly. Because you didn't take me seriously, I said. And today at brunch you told me I don't belong here. That I can't afford the membership fees. That my presence is embarrassing to the family. We were just trying to help, Ryan said. By humiliating me. By suggesting I'm too poor, too unsuccessful, too sad to dine at the family club. I shook my head. That's not help. That's cruelty. Richard Morrison cleared his throat. Miss Chen, I had no idea about your relationship with the Chen family. If I'd known. You would have what? I asked. Treated them differently because I'm the owner? Richard, that's exactly the problem. Treatment shouldn't change based on wealth or status. Of course not, he said quickly. I simply meant. I know what you meant. I turned back to my family. Here's the situation. I own Riverside Country Club. I own the building you're standing in, the golf course you play on, the dining room where you were just having brunch. Every square inch of this property belongs to me. Emma, Dad started. Let me finish, I said firmly. I've reviewed the membership agreements and I've made some decisions. First, the club will remain operational under current management. Patricia and Richard have done excellent work, and I'm not interested in disrupting successful operations. Relief crossed Richard's face. Second, the staff will receive better benefits and higher wages. Daniel, the server you were just criticizing for being too familiar? He's getting a 20% raise and health insurance improvements. Same for all 93 employees. Several members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Third, the guest policy Lauren mentioned. The new security protocols? Those don't exist. I'm not implementing anything that treats guests like second-class citizens. But the membership committee, Lauren protested. Reports to me now, I interrupted. Along with every other committee. I'm the owner. The final authority. And I'm making changes. What kind of changes? Brad asked nervously. Nothing dramatic. Operational improvements. Better employee treatment. Updated facilities. Small things that should have been done years ago. I paused. And one membership status change. What change? Dad asked. Yours is being revoked. The words dropped like stones into still water. Revoked. Dad's voice rose. You can't revoke my membership. I've been a member for 40 years. And in those 40 years, you've never violated club rules or missed a payment, I acknowledged. However, I'm the owner now and I have the authority to revoke memberships for any reason. I'm exercising that authority. This is insane, Lauren said. Emma, you can't kick Dad out because your feelings are hurt. I'm not kicking him out because my feelings are hurt, I said calmly. I'm revoking his membership because he suggested his own daughter doesn't belong in a family space. Because he prioritized image over family. Because he demonstrated values that don't align with how I want my property to be represented. Your property, Michael said bitterly. So this is about power. No, Michael. This is about consequences. I looked at each of them in turn. You spent years dismissing me, underestimating me, and treating me like I was less than. You did it casually, thoughtlessly because you genuinely believed I was unsuccessful and unworthy. Now you know the truth and you have to live with how you treated me. So you're punishing us, Jessica said. I'm removing Dad's membership, I corrected. The rest of you can maintain yours assuming you can afford the new fee structure. New fee structure? Lauren's eyes widened. I'm increasing initiation fees to $150,000 and annual dues to $45,000, I said. Market research shows Riverside has been undercharging for years. The new rates reflect the actual value of membership. That's double the current rates. Brad exclaimed. Yes. Still competitive with comparable clubs in the region. I glanced at Patricia, who nodded confirmation. Current members will have 90 days to pay the difference or resign their memberships. You can't do this, Lauren said. I can and I am. It's in the membership agreement. Ownership reserves the right to adjust fees with appropriate notice. 90 days is more than appropriate. Mom's voice was small. Emma, please. Can't we talk about this? We just did talk about it, I said. For the past hour, you talked about how I don't belong here, can't afford to be here, and shouldn't keep pretending I'm one of you. Now you know exactly who I am and you're discovering that belonging here is actually my decision to make. This is revenge, Dad said. No, Dad. Revenge would be closing the club entirely and selling the land to developers. That would actually be more profitable. I smiled slightly. I'm keeping it operational because it's a good investment and because the staff deserves job security. I'm revoking your membership because actions have consequences. I'm your father, he said. Yes. And as my father, you told me I was sad, unsuccessful, and embarrassing. You suggested I stop coming to family brunch because my presence didn't meet club standards. Kept my voice level. Those words matter, Dad. They have weight. And that weight comes with consequences. The lobby was completely silent now. At least 30 members had gathered, watching the confrontation unfold. As for the rest of you, I continued, looking at my siblings, your memberships are your choices. You can pay the new fees and maintain your status here, or you can choose not to. I won't judge either way. But we can't afford those new fees, Ryan said. Emma, that's almost double. Then perhaps you'll need to budget carefully, I said. Make some sacrifices. Maybe drive a 7-year-old Honda instead of a new BMW. Maybe wear the same dress to multiple events. Maybe skip some expensive brunches. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. This is cruel, Jessica said. No, I replied. Cruel was telling me I don't belong. Cruel was laughing about my supposed poverty. Cruel was treating me like an embarrassment. What I'm doing is running a business and setting boundaries. Marcus stepped forward. Miss Chin, we really should review those renovation proposals. The contractors are waiting for approval. Of course. I turned back to my family one final time. You're welcome to finish your brunch. On the house today. Consider it a goodbye gift from the owner who doesn't belong. I walked away, my management team following. Behind me, I could hear the eruption of voices. My family arguing, members whispering, Richard trying to restore order. The executive office was exactly as I'd designed it during the renovation. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the golf course, modern furniture, technology integration, and walls lined with photos from all my properties. It was professional, comfortable, and unmistakably mine. That was intense, Sarah said, setting up her laptop. Necessary, I replied. Your father's membership. Are you serious about revoking it? James asked. Completely. He'll challenge it. Maybe sue. Let him. The membership agreement is airtight. Owner discretion is absolute. I sat behind my desk. Besides, I don't think he will. The public embarrassment would be too much. What about your mother and siblings? Marcus asked. Their choice. If they can afford the new fees, they stay. If not, they go. I opened my laptop. Either way, they'll understand that I'm not who they thought I was. We spent the next 2 hours reviewing reports. The golf course needed drainage improvements. The pool complex required resurfacing. The kitchen equipment was outdated. Standard maintenance items that would cost approximately $3 million over the next 2 years. Return on investment should be 7 years, Marcus calculated. Assuming occupancy rates remain steady and the fee increases don't cause significant member attrition. Some attrition is expected, I said. But market analysis shows we've been undercharging. Members who leave will be replaced by those who appreciate the value. And if your family can't afford to stay? Sarah asked gently. Then they'll understand what it feels like to not belong somewhere because of money. I met her eyes. I'm not trying to be vindictive, Sarah. But they need to learn that wealth doesn't make you better than other people, and lack of wealth doesn't make you less. Understood. My phone buzzed. Lauren, we need to talk. I didn't respond. Another text. Michael, this is insane. You're destroying the family over hurt feelings. Still no response. The mom. Emma, please. Can we meet somewhere private? Just you and me? I considered that one, then typed. Tomorrow. My office. 10 a.m. Thank you. We finished the business reviews by early afternoon. Marcus, Sarah, and James left to catch their flights, and I remained in the office, looking out at the golf course where my father had played every Saturday for 40 years. My phone rang. Unknown number. Emma Chin. Miss Chin, this is Richard Morrison. I wanted to apologize for this morning. If I'd known. Richard, you didn't do anything wrong. You treated me the same as any other guest. So I feel terrible. The things your family said aren't your responsibility. I leaned back in my chair. Richard, I want you to continue as club president. You're good at the job and members respect you. Even with the new ownership? Especially with the new ownership. I need someone who understands the culture here and can help transition to new policies without causing chaos. About those new policies, the fee increases are necessary for the club's long-term viability. I've reviewed the financials, Richard. Riverside has been operating at barely break-even for 3 years. Previous ownership deferred maintenance, underpaid staff, and kept fees artificially low. That's not sustainable. No, he admitted. It's not. So we make necessary changes. Some members will leave. Others will stay. New members will join. The club will be stronger for it. And your father's membership is revoked. That stands. Miss Chin, Emma, he's been a pillar of this club for decades. Served on multiple committees, chaired the golf tournament, donated to the scholarship fund. And told his daughter she doesn't belong here because she can't afford it. I finished. Richard, I understand his contributions. I also understand that values matter more than history. My father demonstrated values I don't want associated with my property. That seems harsh. Perhaps. But it's also clear. Actions have consequences even for pillars of the community. We spoke for a few more minutes about operational details, then hung up. I sat in the office until evening, watching the sunset paint the golf course in shades of gold and amber. Members came and went, unaware that the woman in the owner's office was the same person they'd seen being dismissed by her family that morning. Tomorrow Mom would come for her private meeting. She'd apologize, probably cry, definitely try to negotiate for Dad's membership. I'd listen because she was my mother, but I wouldn't change my mind. Lauren, Michael and Ryan would need to decide if they could afford the new fees. Ryan probably could. His medical practice was thriving. Michael's law firm was successful. Lauren's husband Brad had family money. They'd pay and stay, though they'd resent me for it. Dad would be furious for months, maybe years. But eventually he'd understand. Or he wouldn't. Either way, he'd learn that underestimating people has costs. My phone buzzed. A text from someone I hadn't heard from in hours. "Proud of you," Marcus Wu wrote. "Not just for today. For everything." Marcus wasn't just my CFO. He was my best friend, my trusted advisor, and the person who'd believed in me when I'd first proposed buying that initial golf course 10 years ago. He'd helped me secure financing, structure the deal, and build Chin Capital Group from nothing into something significant. "Thanks," I typed back. "Couldn't have done it without you." "You absolutely could have. I just made it faster." I smiled at that and stood up, stretching. The office had a small bathroom and changing area, and I'd brought comfortable clothes. No point in maintaining the dress code illusion anymore. As I changed into jeans and a simple shirt, I thought about the morning's confrontation. About Lauren's shock, Michael's disbelief, Dad's fury, Mom's tears. About the members who'd watched, the staff who'd listened, the shift in power that had happened in minutes. This was who I was now. Not the unsuccessful daughter, the disappointing sister, the sad woman who couldn't afford membership fees. I was Emma Chin, owner of Riverside Country Club and 5 other properties, CEO of Chin Capital Group, and a woman who'd built something real through hard work and smart decisions. Tomorrow I'd meet with Mom. Next week, I'd receive resignation letters or payment confirmations from my siblings. Next month, new members would join, attracted by renovated facilities and improved services. Next year, Riverside would be profitable, successful, and recognized as one of the premier clubs in the region. And through it all, I'd remember this moment, standing in my own office, in my own building, on my own property, knowing that I'd proven every single one of them wrong. Not because I needed their approval. Not because I wanted revenge. But because I'd built something that mattered and they'd finally been forced to see it. I left the office at 7, waving to the evening staff as I headed to the parking lot. My Range Rover sat in the space marked "Owner," gleaming under the parking lot lights. As I drove away from Riverside Country Club, I glanced in the rearview mirror at the building growing smaller behind me. My building. My property. My success. And tomorrow, when Mom arrived for her meeting, I'd listen to her apologies and her pleas. I'd be kind but firm. I'd maintain my boundaries. Because that's what successful people do. They set boundaries, enforce consequences, and build lives that matter, regardless of whether their families choose to recognize it. And if recognition came too late, accompanied by shock and resentment rather than pride and support, well, that was a consequence too. Just a different kind.